Monash Barbarians 14 defeated the Melton Wolves 6. A perfect morning for football on a magnificent spring day in Gridiron. The Barbarians received the kickoff and it didn't take them long to put the first points on the board. The game had been going for under 2 minutes when the Barbs threw a 70-yard TD pass, a scene all too familiar for the Wolves this season. The Wolves couldn't do much on offense and threw an interception at midfield. In the second quarter, the Wolves got something going and drove 60 yards for a score to Charlene Baker. The 2-point try was no good and they trailed 8-6. The Barbarians moved the ball from their own 45-yard line with the run game and some quick passes, also using a fake punt to gain a first down. On a 4th down attempt at the Wolves' 15-yard line, the defense held out the Barbs. With the second quarter nearing its end, the Wolves started their drive from their own 15. Aided by a 15-yard personal foul by the Barbs, the running of QB David Parkinson and catches to Daniel Mansueto and Charlene Baker, the Wolves came up empty on a 23-yard field goal attempt to end the half. The Wolves received the kickoff to start the second half. Starting from their own 25-yard line, the run game kicked into gear and they used the entire quarter. But a huge fumble sent them back 16 yards to the 23-yard line. On 4th down, the Barbs intercepted Parkinson for the second time and took over possession to start the final quarter. The Barbs then marched the ball 77 yards through the run game to score and go ahead 14-6. The 2-point try was intercepted by Luke Sackle. Melton's next possession started in great field position at the Barbs' 40, set up by a nice 30-yard kick return by Zach Patrick. Unfortunately, Parkinson threw another interception from a tipped pass. The Barbs failed to move the ball and were forced to punt, handing the ball back to Melton. But the Wolves' offense struggled to gain anything and turned it over on downs. The Wolves' defense held off the Barbs to set up a 4th and 3 from the 25-yard line, which the Barbs converted on another fake punt. They ended up having to punt again with just on 2 minutes left. This was going to be the Wolves' last chance to try and tie the game at 14 apiece. Starting from their own 37-yard line, they were unable to complete some passes but finally hit Mansueto to move the chains. The Barbs' defense stood tall and denied the Wolves' receivers, ending the game with an incomplete pass on 4th down. The Wolves have now slumped to 2-3 with 3 losses in a row. They now face a huge task when they play the Warriors next week, while the Barbarians recorded their first win of the season. Bendigo Dragons 69 defeated the Pakenham Silverbacks 0. In what looked like could be a much close affair after recent form, this one was far from close. The Dragons had suffered a number of injuries in the first 4 games. The Dragons kicked off and the Silverbacks fumbled the return, only for the Dragons' Bruce Fu to swoop and run it in for a touchdown. The worst possible start for the Silverbacks started the nightmare. An interception was thrown by the Silverbacks, allowing the Dragons to set up to score again. Running back Brandon Walker and Raymond Hinder carved up the Silverbacks' defense with the running game. Dragons quarterback Jake Heady spread the scoring to receivers Jared Prentice, Joseph Hughes, and Dale Shanahan. Bendigo's defense never let the Silverbacks get any momentum by forcing turnovers and 3-and-outs. So which Dragons will we see after the bye? The ones who beat Croydon in week 2 or the ones that struggled against the Predators? Pakenham will have another huge task ahead as they take on the Predators at home.
Now I had the time of my life. No, I never felt like this before. Yes, I swear It's a truth, and I owe it all to you. 'Cause I had the time of my life.
Monash Warriors 26 defeated the Geelong Buccaneers 18. These two clubs have had some outstanding battles in the past. Recent form for Geelong hasn't been at the level of the Warriors, especially over the past 3 seasons. Monash may have thought they would win this comfortably, but the Bucks had other ideas. In a battle under the lights, the Bucks and the Warriors traded blows. The lead changed several times before the Warriors eventually held on in a classic encounter, bringing back memories of their Vic Bowl battles. Melbourne Uni Royals 50 defeated the Northern Raiders 0. The game started out nice and cold and dreary. The Raiders won the toss and deferred. First possession saw the Royals methodically drive down the field for a touchdown and were able to convert. The Raiders returner was able to make some positive yards and set them up. A couple of early first down and the Raiders looked threatening, but the Royals defense was able to tighten up and force a few plays for loss of yards, causing the Raiders to have a decision to punt or not. But true to form, no punting for the Raiders, and they turned the ball over on downs. The Royals were able to quickly march down the field on a one-play drive for a TD, but failed the 2-point conversion. The Raiders returner, as was the case all day, was able to eke out 15 yards each return. Unfortunately, the Raiders' offense sputtered under the Royals' defense with a quick 4-and-out. Once again, the Royals marched the ball down the field, getting another score. The next drive saw the Royals force a safety, sacking the Raiders' QB in the end zone after an errant snap. With the Royals getting the ball after the safety, they marched down the field, but unfortunately lost control of a wayward pitch, and the Raiders capitalized with a fumble recovery. The Royals' defense came back on the field and quickly responded, creating another 4-and-out. This time, the Royals' offense didn't make the same mistake, screening their way down the field for another TD and converted PAT. With the score already 30-0, a running clock was implemented after the Raiders requested it. The free-flowing time didn't stop the strong run game of the Royals from capitalizing, with yet another TD following a tough stand from the defense. Kicker Jimmy Iles failed to convert the PAT after a wayward snap. The Raiders' next possession saw them move the ball, however, a wayward throw resulted in the Royals picking it off. The Royals' offense again pounded the ball down the field and were able to convert. Jimmy Iles made sure not to miss again. Another strong stand from the Royals defense saw the Raiders backed up in what seemed like 4th and forever. They were unable to convert the 4th down. The Royals quickly scored again before the end of the half, and the kicker nailed another one. In the second half, the game moved extremely fast, with both teams opting to try and run the ball. The Raiders were able to make some positive plays on both sides of the ball, never giving up on the game. Raiders QB Neubauer was definitely a bright spot in the run game. The Royals' offense and defense looked like they slowed right up and failed to put another score on the board. A few penalties halted their momentum and saw the second half turn into a slugfest. Running back Demontrez Symington was able to score 3 TDs. Wide receiver Nick Foray managed to score a receiving TD against his old team. Wide receiver Zeb Pawlowski was able to start his tally for the season. And wide receiver Jacob Kieran continued his streak with another 2 TD game. Ballarat Falcons 58 defeated the Peninsula Sharks 7. In what was a history-making day for the Sharks, it didn't really go the way they liked. The Falcons took the game as a chance to test their backup quarterbacks,
Jack Bell
and Eddie Carey. The usual suspects, Peter McKay and Duncan McIntosh, made damaging runs all day, along with H-back Chandler Pierce. Wide receivers Daniel Parkinson and Billy Pedretti were both outstanding with their route running and hands. It was a big defensive day for the Falcons, with the defensive line being the stars of the show, with constant pressure and minimal gains allowed. Linebacker Andrew Pickersgill was the main standout on defense, and starting quarterback James Stevens recorded an interception on defense. The Sharks were able to score for the second time this year after a pick six and extra point. Western Crusaders 56 defeated the Southeastern Predators 6. The Crusaders were celebrating the 20th anniversary of their first ever Vic Bowl. Even without head coach Craig Wilson due to sickness, the Crusaders never missed a beat. The Crusaders prepared like it was a Vic Bowl, according to Wilson, and they didn't disappoint. The Predators were able to move the ball after the opening kickoff and got as close as the 10-yard line. After a Predator reception, the Crusaders forced a fumble and recovered it. Then they marched the field and put the first points on the board. The Predators never worried about the Crusaders after that point, as they took a 28-0 lead. The Preds have an opportunity to score some points next week as they take on the Silverbacks, while the Crusaders look to inflict more pain on the Raiders.